Craig, welcome back, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing. You're the world traveler.
I am the U.S. traveler so far, soon to be world traveler. But nonetheless, before we get into that, welcome everybody back to Exceptionally
Average.
My name is Steve Harris. We've got
Craig Flack
sitting next to me, and we are ready to kick off another segment, maybe two tonight, that are going to post in May and in June. Is that correct?
Correct, yep.
And we're back in the saddle nonetheless, but we have been extremely busy throughout the wintertime, haven't we?
Yeah, you've been, obviously the church season, the busiest season in the church is January through Easter. It's for Ohio at least. Why? It's cold, it's dark, and there's nothing to do. So people are like, well, I guess we'll go to church. And then obviously culminating with, starting with Christmas, culminating with Easter, and then you've been out of town. There was like a stretch of 6 out of 8 weeks or something like that.
7 out of 9.
That was insane.
It was absolutely insane.
So we tried to get some, but just schedule wise, it just didn't work out. You were in San Francisco.
We were constantly in conflict. So 7 out of 9 weeks I was gone. I did not winter in Ohio. Mm-hmm. That was my purpose, nice. Right? So I planned that very intelligently.
Your wife got to shovel the snow and stuff.
Good on my part. We're going to talk about emotional intelligence a little bit during this episode. I just want to stand up and say, I'm a performer. I'm a high performer. Well, so I spent 3 weeks in California. Good on me. My wife came out and visited while I was in San Francisco for 2 straight weeks, and all work related. But she came out and spent a long weekend with me. I was in Boston for a week, Atlanta, Dallas, Fort Worth area. And somewhere else that is not coming to mind right now,
Dayton.
But Dayton. I was in Dayton.
Not fun.
Not so much fun there.
It's like womp womp.
Exactly.
Sorry, Dayton.
Exactly.
And then Germany's coming up in June.
Germany's coming up in June and again in July, and then in May. Take a step back. Just about 20 days from now, I'm leaving for Australia for 2 weeks.
She's a Pete.
Yeah, man. So going to get to see the world a little bit.
Down under.
Yes, that's right.
Have you ever been to Australia?
I've never been to Australia, so I'm looking forward to it. You know, I've had a lot of conversations with the people down there, and they've come to visit and here in the U.S., and I've spent some time with them, and basically a lot of them say that it's United States South.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting, and I'm going to find out for myself.
How long is that flight?
It's 15 hours from Los Angeles to Sydney.
That's brutal.
So, yeah, you have to get to Dayton. For me, it's Dayton to Atlanta, hour and a half, and then Atlanta to L.A., 4.5 hours, and then an hour and a half or 2 hour layover, and then 15 hours. So
do you at least get like a business class?
Something like that.
Because that's a brutal flight.
I will say I won't be flying economy.
Yeah,
yes,
that's a little tight. That's one of those where it's like, yeah, if you're like going on a mission trip, it's like, hey, for the Lord, we sit in economy, we do whatever, but 15 hours, that's brutal.
That's a long time.
That's multiple meals you're eating up there. That's multiple trips. You're going to be the weirdo trying to do like push-ups in the center aisle and yeah.
That's right. That's exactly right. And, get the duct tape ready. Tie me to my seat.
Because you're going to freak out a little bit.
There's going to be a moment where I'm going to probably have a little bit of a meltdown and have to regather myself. So that emotional intelligence thing again, I'm going to have to really apply that and focus hard.
What you're telling me in segue here is you're going to have to remember your purpose.
Yes, I'm going to have to remember my purpose. And
what is our topic this evening?
What a great intro.
I'm the pros. Jay Leno and Conan O'Brien, they look at me for segues.
This is why you're a pastor and you lead people, and I just follow along. This is why I show up on Sundays during the wintertime, not because of the darkness and nothing else to do. But yeah, we're going to be talking about passion versus purpose. And, one of the things that has always intrigued me, Craig, and probably you too, and maybe even men in general, is what is the difference maker between great performers versus mediocre performers? And there's a number of criteria there, but one of the things that is identifiable, I think even measurable, which we're going to talk about a little bit today, is passion versus purpose. And a lot of people would look at that and say, it's really the same thing. It's the same definition overall, but the fact is they're really not.
And maybe we don't talk as much about purpose. We talk definitely a lot about passion. My entire generation was told to chase your passion, go to college. That's why you've got underwater basket weaving degrees, because I was passionate about underwater basket weaving and spent, $120,000 to get a certification about it. We were told to pursue our passion, and you're telling me to Not?
I'm telling you, it's certainly not a priority, and I think by
you mean millennials are wrong?
It's possible. It is very possible. I don't want to offend anybody.
I'm done. I can't. This is triggering the entire conversation.
As a Gen Xer, I'm not good at not offending people. So forgive me if I just don't care.
Yeah.
So regardless, passion versus purpose, Craig, we have to define it and understand what its meaning is. And I wrote down some notes, but really, passion is something that we love to do, right? I mean, if we look at it and we say, Craig, I want you to follow your passion. Okay, that means do what you love, enjoy what you do, be able to get up and when you hit the alarm, not hit the snooze button, get up and go do it because you love it so much. That's passionate, and it's energizing. But what it also is, Craig, is it's very isolating. It's self-serving versus purpose, which is more of a other-centered philosophy. In other words, I'm focusing on something bigger or greater than myself, something that serves others, yourself. And as a result of serving others, I benefit from it first of all, from a Christian standpoint, in the way God and Jesus intended us to feel joy, right? But most of all, that purpose is, it serves others, and it means going beyond serving yourself and doing for others. So passion versus purpose. And how do we dive a little bit deeper into the difference between the two? And I believe very strongly that is the difference maker between great performers, not just at work, but at home also. How you identify and how you relate to your spouse, how you connect with your children. And that's really what we're talking about here, is connection through purpose, because it's serving others, connecting with others, versus passion, which is very internalizing and isolating.
When I think passion, I think of what are the things most guys are passionate about. Sports, golf. Guys at our age tend to be really obsessed with their golf game because we can't play football anymore. Softball's kind of lame.
Anymore?
It's true. That's true. Couldn't play football ever, but, if coach just would have put us in, we would have won the big game.
We'd have won state.
Yeah, but, golf is, a huge obsession with folks. Our sports teams, sports betting has become a huge obsession. But all of it is very my game. I think one of the reasons why we love golf, it's our game. You're competing, me, myself, that kind of thing. Even when we talk about sports, you always make fun of the people that talk about like they're on the team, because they're passionate, and it's like, we're
connected.
We won the Big Ten, and it's like, did you?
Yeah,
did you? I didn't remember you got the ring, but yeah, passionate is. I think about all that, and almost everything guys or gals tend to be passionate about. It's almost always self-serving. You rarely hear someone say, "My passion is just serving other people."
No, I don't hear that either.
And if someone said that, there might be the rare Mother Teresa, whatever. But most of us, it's just not.
Yeah, when you talk about what you're passionate about, it's like, for you love woodworking, right? And for me, I love maybe physical fitness, or
we're both football nuts.
We both love sitting on a Saturday and watching our sports teams. Is that right?
Bemoaning the Lions,
very
bemoaning
passionate
the Dolphins.
about that. But if we look at that, we recognize that is all of those things that we just identified can be very self-serving. They're internal moments that isolate us from connecting with others.
And we just move often, and we'll get into this, I think we move through our purpose so that we can get back to our passion.
We'll talk about that. What does that mean to you?
I think most of us are desperately long to get to our passion, so we just shuffle through what could actually be our purpose, or what will really connect us and ground us and center us, whether at home or the office or in the community. The thing that we actually need to do, so much of us just get through it, just to do it, so that we can then, a perfect example, the guy that rushes through putting his kids to bed, reading the shortest story, barely having any conversation, so he can get back to the video games.
You bring up a really good point, because one of the things that we do when we do something that is maybe just very task oriented, kind of like what you're describing, just getting through the day to day, recognizing that it is, or seeing it only as an event, as a moment in time versus why am I doing this?
And why am I here?
Why am I here? What is the meaning behind doing dishes at 9 o'clock at night?
Reading my kid a story.
Yeah. And it is, well, I get to connect with my child. I'm the last person they see before they go off to night. I'm the last person they see on this given day that they will never experience again, right? That means that has purpose.
Yep.
Right. And
versus if I can just get through this, I can get back to Call of Duty.
That's exactly right. And, it goes not just at home, but it also goes at work. Think of the very high performers that you're familiar with or connected through the church in their jobs and their positions. And what is the real difference maker between those individuals versus somebody who is just more of a task-oriented or maybe even a mediocre performer and just kind of does the day-to-day? They're not necessarily passionate about it, but they're also, most importantly, I believe, not purposeful about it. It doesn't, they feel like it doesn't have that higher calling beyond themselves. Like they're not seeing the benefit down the road. Yeah. It's not this upstream vision that we need it to be in order for it to be purposeful.
And why do you think that's so important? So what is it? What really is on the line if we don't walk in our purpose?
Well, I can tell you just from personal experience, and this is probably very similar for many people. Maybe you've experienced it as well, but in a previous job or role or career path beyond where I am now, this was 7 or 8 years ago. We talked about the golden handcuffs in many episodes before this. Is you make a lot of money, and you have these handcuffs that are made of gold, but they're handcuffs that are binding your hands together, and you're going through the daily tasks and the grind, and you're not enjoying it, and you feel like what you're doing isn't serving a higher purpose. It doesn't have meaning or impact to others that benefit or experience great joy from what you do or what you provide as a service. And that really, I didn't realize it at the time because maybe I was too emotionally connected to it, too close to it. Sometimes that can happen. But when you get a chance to step back and the worldview becomes a little bit further away and you get this different perspective, all of a sudden you realize that, gosh, I didn't enjoy that because who did it benefit? Who really reaped the reward other than maybe a checking account?
Yeah.
And that had no meaning to me. Now, what I'm doing now feels like others are benefiting. I'm helping others succeed in their career path. They're recognizing, in my mind, I train salespeople. That's what I do. That's my role, right? So training that I've helped develop, helped deploy, that I lead, not just for the U.S., but also a global focus, has a lot of excitement for salespeople because they feel like they're going to glean something from it. They're going to be able to have clear understanding of what their company and who their company is all about, help identify their career path, and maybe collapse the time frame to get to where they want to be a lot sooner in advancing in their career. But then also they recognize they're going to benefit financially, but yet the company is also going to benefit financially. There's going to be profit. So it's a win-win. And I look at that and I think, okay, we're all going to win here. And it's serving well beyond me. This goes beyond just anything internal. So this excites me. And now I want to do more. I want to reach out. I want to connect with others. It's not just me going through a checklist every day. I'm going that extra mile, if you will, to make sure that everybody is connected. Everybody is moving in the direction that they feel is necessary.
Have you ever actually taken the time to write out your purpose or a mission statement, purpose and mission statement? Have you ever crafted that for yourself?
It's funny that you asked that because it just happened this week. We did not talk about this. We did not talk about this. So this is just like unplanned.
That's going to sound so corny.
Like, oh yeah, this. Hey,
Tell me, Steve, did you ask?
Ask me about my mission statement, would you, Craig? This is great.
I love it because inside you're also like, I'm telling you about the. Please. So what? How did that come up this week? Through work or just through you thinking about this?
Well, it's manufactured. It's not just me thinking, okay, I need to come up with a mission statement because Craig might ask me about it. It actually generated itself because I have an executive a session or meeting or recap, I guess, better said, coming up at the front end of May, where I'm going to sit down with some individuals and say, hey, this is what we've accomplished. But in doing so, I think there needs to be a mission statement so that we know what the target was. We know what the goal line was so that we can say, yes, we've achieved this, or no, we've fallen short. Well, in fact, we have achieved this. So that mission statement really is all about providing value to salespeople. So serving others so that they may benefit in their own career path. They may benefit by serving customers, and they will benefit by reaping financial rewards and returning profit to the company. So none of that statement has anything to do with how it's going to benefit me. It's about others. And I feel really good about it because I know that is a purpose, because it connects with others.
Do you have a have a Steve Harris personal mission statement or purpose?
I don't, but I should have one.
But yeah, I had to come up. See, I had to.
Do you have one?
Yeah.
Can you repeat it? Because a lot of people not only don't have one, but if they do, they can't repeat it.
Leading others to recognize the voice of the Good Shepherd and following him myself.
Okay. How did you come up with that? Because that sounds very purposeful. You're obviously passionate about what you do, but when you connect purpose and passion, now you create somebody that is unstoppable.
So I came up with that. So pastors often will think about our mission statement for churches, which helping others, introducing people to Jesus and helping them follow him is our mission statement at Salina First. Introducing people to Jesus and helping them follow him. So if you know Jesus, we'll help you follow him. If you don't know Jesus, we'll introduce you and then help you follow him. But helping others to identify the voice of the Good Shepherd and follow him and listening to him myself is my mission statement or purpose in this life. So the way I parent my kids, helping them identify and listen to the voice of the Good Shepherd, which is Jesus Christ. The way I come alongside my wife, the way I operate at home, the way I operate at church, obviously they overlap, but whether I was at Crown, be the same thing. So I came up with that when I was actually applying for jobs. And I was looking for a way of like, every pastor's different. I mean, and you know this, there's some pastors whose mission is to get Donald Trump reelected in 2024. That is they believe their purpose. I would argue it's a bad purpose, but that's their purpose. There's pastors that believe their purpose is to eradicate homelessness. Hey, praise God. That's a great purpose.
The opinions on this show do not reflect the opinions of others or in the audience.
They reflect me. But, so I was really thinking about that. And I'm passionate about Psalm 23. It's what I wrote my first book on. The Lord is my shepherd. That's what David says. And so I was starting to think about, and then Jesus tells a parable that says, I am the good shepherd. My sheep will know my voice. And so I took my favorite Psalm, Psalm 23, which I wrote my book on, where David says, the Lord is my shepherd. And I took Jesus' teaching where he says, I am the good shepherd and my sheep will know my voice. And I just really thought my purpose in life, my mission is to help others identify the good shepherd's voice and help them follow him. And then to do the same myself. It's not just for others, but then for me too. And so here's the thing, the reason why I asked this and why I think it's worth you thinking through, because it'll be broader than Crown. It could apply to Crown. It'll be broader than fitness, but it'll apply to fitness. Because, so for example, I think my mission, helping me listen to Jesus, was why I got healthy. It was Christ calling me to be a better steward of my body. So it was directly within my purpose to live a healthier life because it was honoring Christ.
I can relate to that, and I have a story behind that as well.
And so, so once I kind of identified this purpose and why I asked if you could, it helps me to then say no to things that are outside of my purpose.
Right.
So I did, and you know this.
Without guilt.
Yeah. I did a spell on the school board. I thought that I could shoehorn that into my purpose. As it turned out, it's a really important gig. I couldn't do my purpose well because the way the secular and the sacred,
it was conflict,
firewall. And so I determined that while it's an important thing, while it's a good thing, and while I was actually pretty passionate and good at the thing, it didn't fit my purpose. And so I actually had to step away from something that I was actually pretty passionate about. Mm-hmm. People didn't understand it, by the way. Mm-hmm. Why would you step away from this thing? You're good at it. You're passionate about it. Yeah. Because my purpose is bigger than my passion. And so I actually would challenge you, and I'll follow up with you, to think through that mission statement, purpose statement, mission statement. They're the same thing. They're synonymous. Most business call it a mission statement, but purpose statement is the same thing because it's the why behind what we do.
Yeah.
And so when I really think about that, it is not, well, because I'm really excited and I want people to look at me. That's that purpose. So it's been helpful to me to identify that because everything in my life can come back to that. The way I parent is very purposeful and direct with that end goal in mind. Teaching my kids to hear the voice of Jesus and follow him. The way I'm trying to be a husband, the way I try and be a neighbor, the way I try and care for my home as a neighbor. You know, I don't let my grass grow an insane amount, not just because I'm a Midwestern dad, though that is part of it, but I want to have a home that looks good in the neighborhood. That is actually connected to my purpose because I think it represents Christ well. I think if I had a dumpy home that I was lazy and didn't maintain,
serve others.
It wouldn't serve others, and it doesn't represent Christ well. That's actually a part of my purpose.
Right.
And so we'll talk maybe a little bit later. I don't want to shove it too soon about peeling back the layer of the why.
Yeah.
And it helps you if you know your purpose, that sometimes mowing the lawn can actually be a part of your purpose. So even when you're not passionate about it, you can help yourself to do it.
You bring up a really good point, and you know, you mentioned the fitness thing a little bit earlier, and in and of itself, it can become just an event, a thing that you do where you get the opportunity to maybe look in the mirror and so forth.
And you're surrounded by folks that are only there for vain results.
That can be the case.
The 20-something guys.
That can be the case. I'm fortunate that it is. I don't see a lot of those. However, it's certainly very possible. I don't deny that. So, but to take that from being your passion, right? Oh, I just like to exercise. Well, you go down that road of whys, and you're absolutely right. And you ask yourself the whys. Well, why do you work out? Well, I like to be fit. Well, why does that matter to you? Well, I'm starting to get a little bit older. Well, what does your age have to do with it? Well, I'm well into my 50s, and I have grown kids. Well, keep going. Why does that matter? Well, eventually, one or both of them are going to have children, I suspect, someday, and I'm going to want to be able to be mobile and play on the floor with them. Boom, there's your purpose, because you are there to serve others, take advantage of a moment in time that is down the road and everybody is going to hopefully benefit from it and create joy. But at the same time, you are, I think what you're doing is you're not just creating moments, but you're oh gosh, what would I say? I think that you're looking beyond yourself. I don't know how else to say that other than you have this go from passion to purpose.
I think the other benefit of knowing your purpose is it can keep you doing things that you're not passionate about.
Yeah.
So one of the things we haven't really talked about is passion can ebb and flow. If you are not passionate about your job, I don't want some of our listeners to be like, Stephen Craig said, I should quit. Because your purpose might still be providing for your family and making sure their needs are met and that kind of thing. But what it can actually do is ground you in the mundane. And so one of the reasons, and I know if I talked to Steve 10 years ago while you were at the job and I said, why did you stay here? You would have said, my kids are young. It provides really well. I'm home at night. I can help with bath time in bed. I can coach ball, and it gets us a vacation. Everything would have been connected to the kind of lifestyle you wanted to provide for your children, for your wife, for your family.
Right. And it showed leadership too.
And so even though I'm not always fulfilled in this, My purpose is bigger, and this job can serve the purpose. Now, you found a job currently, which is the win-win, when you can bring passion and purpose and everything together. I have the same thing. But so the challenge I can ask guys and gals is when you don't feel that passion, can you still bring your purpose to support it? So when I don't feel like giving the kids a bath, my purpose is that I would serve my wife and help her to see Jesus. So I'm going to serve her. When I don't feel like dealing with my kids again, and I want to just zone out on Twitter and Dolphins talk, then I can undergird that with my purpose that says, no, you have limited amount of time. You have finite time. You need to steward it better and do A, B, and C. And that can then kind of rebuke the selfishness, so to speak. And it can really, really be helpful for folks that are maybe struggling to only do what they're passionate about. And then when the passion wanes, it's like, well, I don't really want to do anything.
Yeah, you need to find your why. I think one of the best ways that I might be able to frame this up a little bit is finding that energy. And there was it was probably maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Wharton University did a study, and they took 32 lifeguards over a summertime. And typically your lifeguards are 18 to 22 years old kids and just coming out of high school or in high school and are just still in college. 32 lifeguards, split them up into basically two teams. Now they didn't tell them they were on two different teams, but you had team, let's call it average, and you had team meaning. Okay, they took both teams into separate rooms and showed them a 30-minute video. With team average, the 16 kids, they showed 4 videos of how being a lifeguard will benefit you in your career path with your experience and your skill set with whatever job or career you might choose down the road. And somewhat meant to be motivational, right? With the team meaning, right? They took those 16 individuals into another room and they showed them also 4 videos. But these 4 videos included lifeguards saving the lives of drowning swimmers. All 4 of them. They wanted to study the results of each team throughout the following week through volunteerism. Team meaning volunteered 43% more for the hours and the time given throughout the week than team average, because they felt what they were doing through their lifeguarding had purpose. It was serving others, not serving themselves like team average was doing. So you can call it motivation, but it goes way beyond motivation.
It's what actually kicks in when there is no motivation. So why do you get up at 3 a.m. when your baby's crying and you have no motivation and you're exhausted?
Yeah.
Because you're going to keep your kid alive. That's your purpose.
Right.
I mean, literally, your biological hardwired purpose, or at least my wife's purpose. Sorry, sweetie. But, it kicks in when motivation is lacking. And this is why I think it's so, we have a generation of men. I don't want to get too soapboxy, but maybe I should. It's a podcast. That men tend to lack purpose and tend to lack what they so that's why men are so obsessed with their passions, because no one has given them a purpose or a mission greater than themselves, bigger than themselves. And then if they have, are they mature enough to set aside some passions to serve the purpose?
Yeah, I think of the movie, and we can all kind of go back to this, and certainly men your age, men my age will be able to relate to this in some way. You remember the movie The Passion of the Christ? So the title, by that definition, passion, the way we have set it up and defined that today, passion is self-serving. Well, we know that what Christ did here on the earth and what he continues to do for us in our lives is anything beyond self-serving, right? So really, we look at that and say, that is so incorrect. It doesn't make any sense. And what it really was it was the purpose of the Christ. Nobody has a passion to die on a cross. Nobody has a passion to get whipped and have skin torn off their back that exposes the backside of their ribs. That's not a passion. That is a purpose. And God sent his son because he was passionate about him, but because his son, even more so, had a purpose of being here on earth. And we need to find that purpose for ourselves. And we need to go through those multiple whys and ask ourselves until we get to that moment that we make that statement that serves others in a way that Christ would want to be, would want to see that demonstrated.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why when you look at pretty much every statistic, and this is across religions, obviously I would argue Christ is the truth, but people that have deep faith are often happier, have more joy,
right?
Believe that there's a point to their life. They tend to be way more focused because they believe they have an internal purpose.
Don't they also seem to be
direction?
More engaged and involved in other serving ministries or
like
community?
There's a purpose beyond a purpose and a point beyond themselves.
Right.
And so there is there's a value. Not all of us I'm not really a people person. You're not really in the traditional sense. Like, I like who I like, but people that annoy me.
Right. This is why we get along, by the way.
My purpose says, though, I'm going to love everyone.
Right.
Like, my mission statement isn't help those who are not annoying find the voice of the good shepherd. It's help those who God puts in front of me. And so that can be challenging and stuff to me. But this is why I really think men specifically need to come to know the Lord, because there is this adrift nature in men of just kind of doing their thing. It's why I think you see male suicide rates are exceptionally higher than women. Male addiction rates are higher than women, and male prison rates are higher than women, because no one has given them a purpose.
And who leaves the home? Who leaves the home and who breaks up the families? And let me ask you a question. You see a lot of individuals throughout a year that might come to you with issues and just maybe are in a valley in their lives. And I ask you this question: do you believe when you listen to their stories and they lay this out in front of you that they are purposeful about what they are doing? And talk about the absence of that and how maybe serving others provides that joy and provides that energy and motivation. Is there anything there that you can relate it back to?
I can say that this is the people that succeed when they come in and get pastoral counsel are those who are purposeful then in their actions and say, I will take this from here and I will put it into practice. And I will be very purposeful with what I do, versus those that are like, well, I'm just kind of looking for some general thoughts or ideas, or let me the guy that goes and buys 50 different pipes that they might need one from the store. And it's like, I can return these. And it's like, versus the guy that thinks through the project, knows what they need, goes to the hardware store, gets what they need, knows how to do it, turns off the water for the littlest amount of time. They put to practice what they need. And so I can pretty much tell when marriage counseling is going to go well, because if I meet with the couple in the next week and I say, okay, we talked about this last time, how did that go? And they're like, well, we ended up the kids and blah, blah, blah. And there's a bunch of excuses. I'm like, it's going to be tough. Versus the couple that's like, we did this, this, and this. This is what you said do. We tried to do this. This is how it failed. This is how we succeeded. We want to talk to you more about this. I'm like, no, they're going to be fine, because they're purposeful in what they're doing.
It's intentional.
Yeah.
Finding
that you don't stumble into that.
Right. Your purpose also is intentional versus your passion, which is something that, boy, I really like this. I'm going to keep doing it.
Yeah. And I really think that people that are purposeful in what they do in anything are the ones that you talked about, the average performer, the mediocre versus the elite. I think of sports and I think of athletes, and you talk about Jerry Rice was known for his preparation. The guy was a gym beast, and still is just known. And think of we don't look at a lot of the old timers and still think, oh, they're the greatest. Jerry Rice is still considered an untouchable greatest receiver of all time. And his work ethic is known. Kobe, his work ethic is known. His purpose was to be, now we can argue maybe wouldn't have been Good, to be the greatest.
I put him in my top 5 easy.
And because of how hard he worked, where Shaq was easily more dominant. Shaq should have been better, but he wasn't, because he didn't have that work ethic, that drive. And so purposeful people do things specifically. So yeah, you'll put your kids to bed when you're tired, because you're thinking about the long-term effects on what kind of dad I want to be, what kind of this I want to be. You'll go to the gym and work out even when you don't want to, because you're thinking about that. You'll take care of your body and you'll get in shape because you're thinking about my purpose and all that. You won't buy the sports car. You'll buy the used SUV because you're thinking about your purpose and your saving, like all this stuff. It will infect everything you do, where your passion will tell you, eat Dairy Queen, buy the sports car, play Call of Duty, let your wife take care of all that other stuff.
Let the lawn grow.
And it will destroy your life.
Right. So, as we kind of wrap this up a little bit, we look at passion versus purpose, and purpose has meaning and intentionality, but it's not just at work. It is definitely at home. And you could make the argument that it has to start at home.
Yeah, I think, well, if it doesn't, and I even think this is true for single folks, if you don't have a purpose outside of your job can serve that. It's 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Right. And eventually you're going to retire.
Right.
And so you should have a purpose outside of. Now, if you're lucky and hit the lotto like you and I, where we feel like our jobs line up with our purpose, praise God.
Yeah, you're going to be a rock star.
But there's some guy driving truck listening to this right now that's like, this isn't my purpose. It's like, good. That's okay. Yeah. You're serving your purpose, which is your family, provision, feeding your kids, showing hard work ethic, doing the hard thing. But your purpose, it really does have to begin outside of that.
And for those that are really struggling with that, continue to ask yourself those whys.
Yeah. Why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this? What is the meaning behind this? And when you finally get to the comment that identifies the serving of others, now you've found your purpose.
Yep.
And you can back into that. So I think that that's a pretty good wrap on passion versus purpose. I hope people take it very seriously. As always, we want people to reach out to us and give us their opinions. And if they want help walking down that pathway, we're happy to do that.
Mm-hmm. I'd love to hear folks think and tinker on a mission statement, a purpose statement.
Good point.
And have one for your life. It can change over time, but you should have a center direction, because that'll be your true north. So.
Very good. That's an episode wrap for Exceptionally Average. I want to thank you guys for listening. And as always, once again, we're going to be here for, we're going to do a once a month episode. And so stay tuned for May, stay tuned for June, and we're going to keep this thing rolling. Thank you guys for tuning in. Craig, thank you, sir.
Thank you, brother.
Over and out.